Hi, I'm Daniel Lucas, and welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. He's the founder of GetOpener, a platform helping brands to get into retail and actually sell once they're there, building the fastest path from product to retail growth. No other than Mr. Gilad Rom.
Hi, how's it going?
Well, fabulous and excellent as well, Mr. Gilad. And thank you so much for being part on Book 101 Review. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
My pleasure. So nice to meet you. I'm Gilad. I'm the founder and CEO of GetOpener. I spent a lot of years in tech. I worked at Google. One of the products I worked on there was Android Pay, now Google Pay. I spent some time at Shopify as well, both working on their checkout portfolio and their financial solution portfolio. And then I worked at a company called Clearco that used AI and machine learning to provide financing to small and medium businesses and help them grow in a really meaningful way. I started GetOpener mainly because there's a very big gap that we saw while we were doing a lot of commerce things in Shopify, Google, and Clearco, which is fundamentally, it's never been easier to start a brand. It's easier than ever. You can go to Shopify and start a store in 15 minutes without even buying stock by drop shipping everything. But it's never been harder to actually scale a brand. So you have to be an expert in marketing, in social media, in fulfillment, in operations, in finance, and so on. And it's actually much, much harder to do that for wholesale. Because while you have tools to scale your growth on e-commerce, like Google ads and Facebook ads and so on, you don't really have a measurable and scalable way to grow your retail sales. You can't put $1 in Google ads and expect to get yet another retailer. And the problem actually becomes much harder as you scale. Because when you think about these wholesale transactions, they're really about building real relationships in the real world with a lot of people, right? Which means that you have to build deep and meaningful relationships with hundreds, thousands of different store owners. And that is hard. And if you don't do that, they're just going to drop your product. Right? So what usually happens today is these companies have to hire a big group of sales reps. And as they grow, they have to grow their sales rep count, or they have to hire external sales reps. Either way, that scale in a linear way, right? You can't overrun it. You have to outscale it to some extent because you're losing margins and you're slowing your growth. And really, that is the problem that we're looking to solve. We want to provide brands with a way that allows them to both unlock new stores, but also manage their existing stores at scale without having an insanely large team. And the people that do work for them would be able to work in the highest leverage points and not just at any point.
Well said, Mr. Gilad, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to us here on Entrepreneurship 101. We salute you, we celebrate you. And thank you. And today let's talk about how to get into retail grow once you're there and how small teams can use AI to outperform much larger organization. You've said getting into a retail is not hard part. It's what happens after you on the shelf, as you're talking about a while ago. What does a failure look like 3 months after the brand lands their first major retailer? Walk us through that quiet disaster.
Yeah, so unfortunately, it's not just one thing. It's many, many things. So you can think about you just started a new product. You started a low sugar lemonade in a can. There are hundreds of things that can go wrong in the process. You can ship it to the retailer and they put it in the wrong place. They put it in the wrong section, in the wrong shelf. They price it incorrectly. They don't have the education to understand how it's differentiated on the shelf. Maybe you have 4 different flavors. One of them was selling extremely well and 3 of them were not selling well. And the retailer just didn't tell you that and forgot to reorder the good selling product. And the end result in all of these situations is if the sales are then lower, the store is going to drop you off after that time. There's obviously other challenges around, was the shipping going well? What happened with payments around the product? Were the promotions running well? There's really dozens and dozens of things that can go wrong. And usually the way this is mitigated is that brands put an account manager to manage that retailer, either account manager internally or a broker externally. Right? But fundamentally, when you think about it, it's if you have 1,000 stores, it's fundamentally impossible for you to give everyone the same attention. Right? So what do the brands do? They take the account managers and they say, you are supposed to drive dollar value, and they focus on the biggest, most important accounts, usually 5-10 accounts. But everyone else becomes reactive. You hear from them when they complain. You hear from them when they had an order. Everything in between goes into the ether. There's no follow-up. There's no building of relationship. There's no understanding of how can this relationship works better, right? So many failure points that are often solved by humans that are just, it's impossible for them to analyze 1,000 stores and then action against them on a daily basis. So that's kind of where we come in, and we decided to do something that I think sounds a little bit radical, which is we thought, what would happen if every single store would have a dedicated account manager that only thinks about it? It doesn't think about any other store. Right? Like it wakes up in the morning and say this small cheese store in the corner. What happens if there's someone every morning wakes up and say, well, how do I make more from this relationship? How do I contribute more? And how do I get more? And that's exactly what we build. So when brands work with us, we basically bring in all of the information, whether it's their shopping portals, whether it's their distributor reports, whether it's their communication portals, their accounting. We bring everything to one place, and we actually create, firstly, like a full system of record for the store. And then we create an agent, an AI agent that sits specifically on that store and that store alone. And that agent wakes up every single day and looks at all the communication history, order history, and so on. And many days they will just go back to sleep. They would say, they ordered 3 days ago, there's nothing that I need to do with them. But some days they will wake up and they will say, well, it's been 2 weeks since we shipped them the products. Why don't I reach out and understand like how the product is moving before it becomes a problem? Just have a friendly conversation. Or they might reach out after 45 days because they would have expected that the second order would already come in. Right? So it would be able to all the time wake up, understand if there's an action that will better the relationship, and if so, it will take the action. And then on top of that, different brands have different preferences and different guardrails. So the brand can also say, this is my guardrails. This is the promotions I'm willing to give. This is the type of communication I like to have, and my vibe when I'm talking, and so on. And the agent will work based on those guardrails, but will be able to escalate back to the brand when it needs support. So an example of that would be a brand would say, I don't want to give any promotions. But now a small store came and said, I want to order $4,000 worth of your goods. Can you do anything with pricing? The agent looks at the guardrails and say, I'm not allowed to give discounts. But at the same time, $4,000 of sale is a big sale. So they would reach back out to the brand owner or the VP sales. They would ask him, hey, I have this situation. What can I do? The brand owner can say, give them 15%, and then the agent will just run with it. So it doesn't increase the workload of the brand owner or the sales team by a lot, but at the same time, it allows them to intervene in the highest leverage points.
Interesting, Mr. Gilad. Most brands chase brokers and middlemen because they think that's the only door. You're helping brands to get direct to retailers. What's a cold outreach email that actually works? Not a template, but the psychology behind why a buyer opens it.
Yeah. So generally, we work with a lot of retailers as well, and the mistake we see many times is, firstly, brokers are great. Brokers are there to fill a very important need that usually revolves around very big chains. If you want to go to Target, if you want to go to Walmart, you should talk to a broker. But in reality, there's a lot of other people you might want to sell to. And what brands often do is they will start sending hundreds of emails that look like marketing campaigns to the retailer without really understanding, is this retailer even relevant for you? Right? Is this like, should you be selling your product in this specific store or this yoga studio or whatever it is? Right? And when they reach out, they're not really looking into, why is this store relevant, and how can I explain to them why I think we can go into good partnership together, right? So if we go back to what we're doing, is if each one of these stores actually has an agent that looks at it, the agent can look at the store and say, this is not the right store. You have a high end, low sugar lemonade that costs $6 a can. We shouldn't be selling it in this convenience store. It's just not the right match. Your buyers are not here, right? But I can also look at a store and say, oh, this store is actually perfect for you. It's perfect because when we look at the other products they're selling there, they're not necessarily looking to be the cheapest products. They actually like unique and more expensive products. They love like healthy products. They care about the fact that you're organic and local. So now we can engage with that store knowing that they're A, relevant, and B, explaining to them why we're relevant, right? And that's a big shift from a lot of things that are happening today.
Well said, well said, Mr. Gilad. A small brand finally gets into a big chain. They celebrate, then 6 months later, they're getting crushed by, well, chargebacks, slotting fees, and poor self through. What did no one warn them about before they signed?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So many times small brands they're getting very excited by the big chains. And I like to think about big chains in early stages of a brand. And this is not true for all of them, but it's true for some of them and many of them. Sometimes it's kind of like playing roulette and putting all of your chips on a number. And if you make it, you can make it really, really big. But there's also a chance that you're going to lose to the house quite significantly. So you just have to be ready for the bigger players. You have to have the production in place and the fulfillment in place. You have to have the cash flow capacity to withhold this endeavor as well, right? You have to have the packaging and the marketing correct. You have to be ready for it. And it's funny because we talked to a distributor on Friday that is still until today sees a massive benefit in all of the independents. And the reason they do is because it balances their cash flow as well, right? It's kind of interesting that there's different terms between a small player and a very big player. So there's nothing wrong with it. It's amazing. Most brands, eventually to get insanely successful, we want to get there. I think it's a question about timing and making sure that you're prepared and ready for it.
Mm. Indeed, be ready for it. You work with Shopify, Clearco, and Google. What's the hard truth about retail that those high growth digitally native companies often refuse to believe until it's too late?
It's a good question. Again, I have been out of those companies for a couple of years now, and they're some of the brightest minds I've ever worked with in all of these companies. So often I see people are thinking about these things. Um, I think there is an inflection point with AI right now, um, that we'll probably talk about when we get to talk about the books. But um, yeah, I can say right now that I can tell from the outside what they're really missing. What we're seeing right now is that we're just trying to be very vertically focused on a very specific thing and go an inch wide and a mile deep, right? So we're not trying to build a solution that is for everyone. I think both Shopify and Google are building great solutions that are often more horizontal by nature, which also makes sense, right?
Mm-hmm. Makes sense indeed. And Mr. Gilad, retail buyers are overwhelmed, under-resourced, and see hundreds of pictures a week. Without using word relationship, what is the one signal that makes buyers stop scrolling and actually read the brand's pitch?
So different buyers are different. They're looking for different things depending on the type of retailer that they work for, the size of the retailer, and so on. I can give you a very simple example. If I'm a buyer for a national chain that maybe is has already a big group of people that visit it consistently because of the bargain prices, really for me, I might try to maximize the velocity per shelf, like how much is the product is moving and what is my profit, and that's how I'm going to get the bonuses in the end of the year. If I'm an owner of a small boutique shop, I'm not going to be able to compete with that large retailer on pricing in most cases. So it really is about how do I create a unique set of products in my store that will drive buyers into the store and want to come and buy from me instead of the big store. So and another player might be someone who's trying to support local brands, and then for them, they would really try to understand how do they tell that local story. So for these three different buyers, you might look at three very different things that they would look at. Like overall, if you can show that your product has great sales velocity, that's always amazing, right? Like if the product just fly off the shelf, it's great. But there are like nuances between them. The one interesting thing that we're seeing more and more lately is a lot of brands are starting online on Amazon, on TikTok, and so on. They're being validated online before they get to store. And then the story that they also have for the store is I already have buyers, I already have distribution to let people know about my product, and I'm going to drive more people into your store. And that's another interesting thing that kind of happens right now. So we see these like native brands that start on TikTok shop, like I believe it's Easy Bomb in the US, that's they kind of create like a spice, like kind of like a bath ball, but for spices for cooking. And they started on TikTok shop before getting into Walmart and other places. And it's been very incremental for them. And actually, I've been to Vegas in a sweets and snack trade show about 2 weeks ago, and we saw some of the best brands pitch and explain how do they collaborate more and more with social media and influencers and so on in order to drive retail adoption.
Indeed. And Mr. Gilad, you're building a multi agent AI system that turns every operator into 10 times version of themselves. What is the first role, small team, that should be augmented by AI, and what role should never be?
It's an interesting question. Um, so I'll tell you how we look at it today. What is the current role of someone who does this job, and how we think this role can evolve? So when you're looking at this role right now, you might have an account manager who is responsible for 100 accounts. They have to physically do two things. They have to consistently build relationship really well and be that great salesperson, and they have to be a fantastic analyst. So they have to sit on the data that comes from distributor reports and communication and their ERP and promotion calendars and so on. And they have to analyze on one hand, and on the other hand, they have to execute. And those set of skills, like finding someone who's amazing in both of them at the same time, is very difficult. And doing it at scale is very difficult. So for us, what we're first thing is that we believe that with the guidance of the sales rep, we can continuously build better and better reporting of what they want to see without them having to be proactive about it. We can start running analysis, show them insights, many times take even actions, and then they can focus a lot on the highest leverage points. You send an email with the promotion, nobody answered. You might have sent a follow-up. Great, now is the time to give a phone call. Now is the time to maybe visit the store. So I don't think humans are going away. I just think there's a great opportunity for humans to kind of get to the point where they're adding the most value. I can give you a different example for this in the support world that I find is very, very compelling.
Go ahead.
So if you think about you had a problem with your phone, with your billing, and you call your cellular provider. In the world of AI, if your problem is simple, you can get an answer on the spot without the human being involved. And the big benefit of it is this: there's no need to actually bring down the team. The team should stay the same size. But now, instead of waiting 45 minutes or 2 hours to talk to someone about the problem that actually requires human intervention and human insights, you can wait 5 minutes. And instead of them spending 10 minutes with you, they can spend 20 minutes with you to really solve the problem and dramatically improve your customer experience. So that kind of like showcase the dissonance. Is like, if there's things that are repetitive and simple and don't require ingenuity and creativity, those are things that can now be more automated and then bring humans to where they add so much value. People add so much value in that, like personal attention and out of the box thinking and understanding the other side and showing empathy, and now really allow people to access that significantly faster and for a significantly longer duration. So that's how I think about it.
Well, Mr. Gilad, to wrap up our discussion for today, in 3 years, how will the relationship between brands and retailers look different because of AI, and what will look exactly the same because of no technology can change it?
Yeah. So there's a phrase in at least in the food and beverage world called the $1 trillion black hole. And it's basically there's a very big data gap between what you sold and where it's at and how it's selling. Like there's a really big data gap, which translate in the end to a lot of losses in the industry, which translate into a lot of products that go to waste that are being thrown away. Um,
Sorry. Sorry for that.
No worries.
Okay, there's something. Okay, go ahead. Sorry for that.
No worries. Yeah, so fundamentally, I believe that over the next few years, a lot of the workflows that are happening through fax and email will start getting into an organized system of record. And that alongside with the ability to continuously analyze and to try things really quickly, the store would start behaving more like your Google ads or Facebook ads, where they become more and more intelligent. The wastage will go down and the efficiency will go up, not just for big stores, but actually for every small store and for every small brand. And we'll get to the point where the right products and the right brands are exactly in the right places for them. Not at 100%, but in dramatically higher percent than they are today.
Well said, Mr. Gilad. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your business, your projects, or anything you want to promote on Book 101 Review?
If there is a great brand we should talk to, I would love, just find me on LinkedIn and make an intro.
Definitely. And can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey?
Yeah, so my son would ask me to say Captain Underpants, but I wouldn't say that one. Yeah. So there's a great book called Pattern Breakers. Are you familiar with that book?
No, not yet. If you want to recommend, well, I will read it. What is
Yeah,
it all about?
It's a really great book at this point of time, especially for people who want to go into tech and building tech companies. It really talks about inflection points as a really big thing and not just an idea, and how some of the best inventions out there were really about identifying something meaningful that changed in the world and matching that with a specific insight to create something unique. And the example of that is, at some point in time, the GPS chips became so small that they can fit in a phone. And not many people saw this, but both like Uber and Lyft now understood that we can now start directing every single driver without a complex system. We can now match that with people specifically without requiring heavy machinery or high investment, because everyone will have a GPS in their pockets. And where the book kind of continues is the concept of living in the future. It's about like, how do you consistently put yourself in a situation where you live that future that you think is going to become true, in order to validate if what you're trying to build is feasible. The book is great. There's obviously many more concepts in the book, but yeah, that would kind of be like the 2 minutes pitch on it.
The 2 minutes, yes, definitely. Thank you for the recommended book, Mr. Gilad. Before I will let you go, I have one more question. A listener runs or viewer small CPG brand. They're not in retail yet. They have limited cash and lot of fear. What is the smallest, most concrete action they could take tomorrow morning that moves them forward or toward a real retail conversation, not a fantasy, but a real one?
Yeah, I would say in the beginning, you want to go and meet your buyers. You want to talk to them. You literally take samples of your product, put them in the car, and drive around and go to stores, talk to people, have them try it, give you feedback about the packaging, about how they see it in the store, what's good about it, what's not good about it. You When you're starting, it's really important to just get the learnings, because those learnings become way more expensive down the line when you already printed 10,000 packages and they're the wrong size, or they're missing a key messaging, or when you're using ingredients that retailer don't want to carry anymore, and so on. So I would definitely say, do not start with technology. Go to stores, talk to buyers, get feedback, try to get yourself in, hear the objections, and understand why you still deserve to be in the store despite the objections. And that's what I would recommend.
Yes, and thank you so much for your time, Mr. Gilad.
Thank you.
And looking forward for more episodes that we do. I will invite you again to please do come over on Abstract Essay and let's talk about more about marketing and branding itself. So, Mr. Gilad, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Monica people, see you soon.
Ciao.
Ciao.